the static clears. Unwanted brotherhood of tears. Grief can weigh us down alone, but here we find a common home. The voices speak to heart and soul. In darker times they make us whole. Through Jesus' light we find our way. In every night there comes a day. From shadows to the dawn we rise. Hope reflected in our eyes.
Welcome back to Unwanted Fraternity Podcast. I'm Jen Tonkinson, back again with my husband, Greg, and we are just so grateful that you're joining us again for another episode. Before we get started, just want to give a quick shout out to the Herzog Foundation. We are so grateful to be partnering with this amazing organization. If you're a parent, a Christian educator, a church leader, and you're looking for tools to help grow the next generation closer to Christ, I encourage you to go onto the Herzog Foundation website at herzogfoundation.com and check out all of the different things that they have. They also have this great section for podcasts. There's so many topics on there. And you can find our podcast, Unwanted Fraternity, as well as our sister podcast, Meliora, the podcast that talks about Christian education, on this website, herzogfoundation.com/podcast. Well, Greg, we are wrapping up the deep dive into Jerry Sittser's book, A Grace Disguised. And it has been, for me, just such a great, peaceful journey of understanding a little bit more about the difficulties going through loss and how we can really depend upon the Lord to get us through those things. And as he ends his chapter and the book, I thought we would start with these very profound thoughts that he has towards the end. It's almost like this paradoxical statement that he has about how he has ended up 3 years later after his catastrophic loss. He says, "Yet the grief I feel is sweet as well as bitter. I still have a sorrowful soul. Yet I wake up every morning joyful, eager for what the day will bring. Never have I felt as much pain as I have in the last 3 years. Yet never have I experienced as much pleasure in simply being alive and living an ordinary life. Never have I felt so broken, yet never have I been so whole. Never have I been so aware of my weakness and vulnerability, yet never have I been so content and felt so strong. Never has my soul been more dead, yet never has my soul been more alive. What I once considered mutually exclusive, sorrow and joy, pain and pleasure, death and life, have become parts of a greater whole. My soul has been stretched." And so as we finish up this series on this book, A Grace Disguised, I want to start with his soul has been stretched. I'm not sure that your soul has been stretched yet. I would think that Greg and I could say that our souls have been stretched a little from our experiences. But life without a stretched soul would seem almost uneventful. And we would ask ourselves, do we have the depth that we need, that God talks about in James 1:2-4, where it says, count it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Would we be able to say that without our loss, without our stretched souls, that we have experienced what this faith, this testing of our faith that produces perseverance? I would say we might lack in that.
Yeah, I would agree. We live in a society that, in fact, we're going to do a upcoming chapel series at the school that Jen and I work at for high school students called Suburbia. And we're going to talk about challenges / sinful ways that are more tempting, or at least as tempting, if not more tempting, for people who live in the suburbs. And one of them is comfort, that we are just so we want comfort. And so we're going to try to approach this to, 500 high school students at a Christian school and say, there's nothing wrong with living in the suburbs, but please don't justify your strong desire to be comfortable, and even when it broaches into sinful desires to be comfortable. But that's, you look around, especially during the holidays right now, what's under the tree? Probably stuff to make you more comfortable, right? I mean, that's
For
just,
sure, yes.
And so
I even thought today when I pulled in my Amazon packages from outside, I was like, gosh, I'm so glad someone shops for me.
somebody shops for you.
I can pick it out and it lands on my door.
I would be even willing to bet, I'd be interested if we took a poll with our listeners or at work or somewhere and said, if you ordered Amazon and if there was a space on the order to say, here's the garage code.
You can do that, actually.
Feel free to leave them inside.
You can put a garage code.
Here's my keypad on my front door. Feel free to open up. I bet people would.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give a complete stranger access to just so that I don't have to open up the front door and go get the packages myself. I don't have to bend down the 2 feet outside. I can just do it right inside. Like, that's how crazy we are in the 21st century in terms of where probably a lot of our audience, which is, upper middle class. And so, yeah, it is that passage in James. There are other passages, whoever wants to be greatest should be everyone's servant. 2 Corinthians, when we're weak, we're strong. Luke 17, whoever tries to keep their life will lose it. Count it joy when you experience trials. Like the Christian life is a paradox. So when Jerry mentions it has been the lowest of lows and the highest of highs, everyone who's been through catastrophic loss that has stayed the course, meaning lament versus anger or doubt, I think has experienced that as well, myself included. It's indescribable in the sense of it just doesn't make sense, but it's happening. I've had the best 15 years of my life and at the same time the worst 15 years of my life. And I think Jerry's echoing that.
The verse leads us at the end to think about perseverance. And so as I was thinking about this final episode for this series, I wanted to really focus on what perseverance means in regards to being in loss and trying to get through that, because it is like you're running through the race, but you're running through the mud and you're carrying weights and you can't see and you can't hear. Like everything is going wrong at the same time when you're trying to persevere through loss. And so then I started thinking about, well, what is the definition of perseverance? And it does mean, I know what it means, but I wanted to look at like the details of the words. And it means that you're doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. And so some synonyms are like having stamina, dedication, staying power, and resolve. You think about loss and having staying power to really work on healing and that loss. Like it takes perseverance to be able to do that. It takes stamina. It takes resolve. Setting your feet firmly on the ground and making yourself step forward each and every day. That is what perseverance looks like when you're sitting in loss. I was thinking about, listeners don't know, but Greg and I used to run these races called the Tough Mudder back in the day. And we have stopped because we've aged. 2020 happened and we stopped after that.
Yeah,
it was kind of, COVID. They stopped having the races.
Right.
And Jen here comfortably settled into, great, we're done. But my husband, on the other hand, is not done. And so he recently came to me and said, hey, I'm going to sign us up for another Tough Mudder. And my reaction was, do you remember?
I think it was, like exuberance and joy saying tomorrow, like let's do
go
it tomorrow.
No, it was, really? I don't know if I'm in the best of shape to do this. And, I have to start training differently. And it's just, it was, my initial stress was like, no, maybe not this time. But I agreed. And I know that it's exhausting. I know that it requires a ton of work to be ready to run that race. And I'm going to need a tremendous amount of endurance and stamina in my age of I'm nearing 50 this year, and things are starting to hurt more than they have in the past. But I thought, the only way I'm going to be able to run this race is by making changes in my workout. I can't consistently sit around and be like, oh, I'll just kind of lift the same weight over and over again. Who cares if I get stronger, right? I'm doing it. At least I'm at the gym, right? But I have to say, okay, no, I'm at the gym and this is my intentional workout in order to grow this part of my body to have more stamina, because I know what I'm up against. And so I know exactly what all of the obstacles are going to be on this race. And they're hard, and I don't have a grip, and I don't have the arm strength anymore. And so I know what I have to do to get to the point where I can actually enjoy the race instead of hate the fact that I'm doing this race, right? And so I want to plan well so that when I am going through the process or when I am actually in the race, I enjoy it. And so I started thinking about, okay, how does this apply to the perseverance that we need to go through life? And not just like regular life, like you're going through life, but what if you're going through life with a tremendous loss? And that loss is never going to leave your brain. Like you're never going to forget that person. You're never going to forget if you've lost your health, what your health used to be like. You're never going to forget what that job was that you like had wanted for your whole life, and now you're trying to find something else to fix that because you don't have it anymore. Like that's different than just going through life. You have this thing you're carrying. But I started trying to apply like, okay, well, I need to train in order to get ready to do the race. In life, we have to pick up pieces of training and put them into our lives so that we can step forward. We have to get stronger. And there are ways to do that. But it takes, I think it takes the resolve. It takes the staying power of the person going through it to say, I am going to choose this. I don't love how I feel right now, but God says I'm supposed to have joy in my trials. And so, okay, great. I'm going to apply that verse today. How do I have joys in my trials? And how do I walk in perseverance toward what I know could be a good life at the end? Like I know my race is going to be fun, but I can't get there without trying.
Yeah, I was listening to a newscast today on my way into work, or maybe a reel, I don't know what it was, but a very successful person was saying, I meet so many people that say, if I can just be successful, then my life will be easier, and all this stuff. And he is successful by worldly definitions. But he said, so many people think that success is like a door with the word success over it, and you arrive at it, and then you walk through it, and then you're always successful. Like you don't have to do anything else once you've arrived at success. So like the goal is to be successful. And he said it's a false notion to think there's an end date to that. That once I become successful, however you measure success, that you just coast. Like, I reached success, and now I will always maintain this level of success without doing any work to continue to maintain it. And I think the same is with perseverance. Ask people that are going through grief or going through catastrophic loss or, heartache or health issues or financial issues. Ask them on any given day, have they arrived? And they will say, of course not. But when you ask them, is today doable? Or is today better than yesterday? Often you'll, get the answer, yeah. So perseverance isn't a state of being that you arrive at. Like no one in the Bible or elsewhere looks back and says, oh, I'm going through a trial and now I have these steps, like, according to Romans 5 or James 1. Okay, now I'm in the, pain trial, and now I'm on the next level, and then I'm on the next level to get to hope, and now I've passed hope, and now I'm persevering. Like, it doesn't work like that.
It's like a video game, you sound like.
Yeah, it's not leveling up.
Yeah.
It's just living.
Right.
And when you live according to God's desires and according to a biblical blueprint, which I think Jerry spends spilling a lot of ink telling us about how to live by a biblical blueprint in grief, you will be known as someone who is persevering, but you won't have completed that. You're not going to finish the race until God calls you home. And so if you are in the process of persevering, well, great, and you will still be persevering tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. There's no break. You don't get a time off and say, well, I've accomplished that. Like, I've persevered enough, now I'm done. It doesn't work like that. You're always in a state of persevering because you're trusting God in your grief and in your pain, and He's doing a work in your life. It's like being sanctified. You don't accomplish sanctification, like you don't reach a place where you say, I'm sanctified. Positionally, you're sanctified. But then you begin the process after justification of becoming sanctified, and that's a lifelong process. Perseverance is the same way. It's like with humility, it's like with anything. And so if I were to ask you, or if someone were to ask me, have you persevered through your grief? I would say I'm persevering in my grief. Mm-hmm. But it's only because I'm allowing God to do whatever He chooses to do with my life after this catastrophic loss took place.
But I think as you persevere, you get stronger, just like you would in
100%.
Training, so that you can look back and say, okay, well, I've worked through this. I know how I'm going to react in this setting. I
Correct.
know my emotional state.
Yep.
I know my triggers, and so I've
and
gained and learned in that. So I've persevered through that. So you get to look back and say, okay, I feel stronger now that I did that.
15 years into my journey, Jerry's 20 years into his, I believe. You have to look and act and feel stronger than you did 15 years ago, 20 years ago. If you're not, then then you are not persevering. You are struggling, you are, coping, you're doing whatever, but you're not persevering. Because perseverance does equate to stamina and strength and power. And honestly, in those first few years, it might just be the power to get up today. Mm-hmm. Like, that may be it. Like, I didn't lose, my mind today. Great, you're persevering. But 15 years later, that has to look different. That has to look, there needs to be a from the outside looking in, a degree of maturity where almost like seasoned, where people can tell, no, you definitely are different than 15 years ago. There is a depth, there is a strength. You're persevering through this.
I think the only way that you get 15 to 20 years out and look back and say, no, you look so different, is because you've made, like you said, the difference between coping and persevering. You made like significant strides forward because you set up goals in your walks. For example, we've talked a lot about, setting up a pattern of the day or the week where you're praying, you're getting up and having quiet time, or spending time in God's word, any which way you are, listening to something on a podcast, listening to a sermon, going to grief recovery things. Those are steps forward so that you can go from coping, which is just fixing the problems each and every day because they don't feel good, to persevering and looking back and seeing strength. I think the only way you get there is through the Lord.
Oh, 100%. And I would say that the first thing, like when do you actually turn the corner, if you will? I think it's when you look back on your journey of grief and you die to self. And it again sounds paradoxical, sounds counterintuitive to say, no, the focus needs to be on me. I'm the one in grief. I'm the one in pain. I'm the one suffering. Look at all the loss in my life, or look what happened, or, look around me. And so the focus is on you, and to the one that accepts the fact that really, really bad things happen this side of heaven, and God may have allowed that to happen in your life. There is purpose, there is reason. He will still be glorified in all of this, and he has not changed his character at all. When you die to self and recognize this life isn't about me, and the focus goes vertical again, I think that you are opening yourself up to tremendous possibilities in terms of beginning to persevere. When you hang on to, no, it's all about me and my struggles, and the focus is inward, then it will take that much longer because you have shut yourself off to God while you're, being incredibly vulnerable and transparent. God choosing to do a work in that, you're shutting yourself off to that. And so all of the examples we have in Scripture, not only from the lament psalms, but also then through James and Romans and other places that talk about the pattern of perseverance, you've eliminated those patterns because the focus is still on you. And so I would say step one, as hard as it is to die to self and to give God back the glory he so rightly deserves, put him back into the throne or center of your life, if you will, and allow him to begin this healing process in your life. But so many of us, like I mentioned before, in our middle income, upper middle income culture, we have been conditioned that not only are we creatures of comfort, but the focus has to remain on you, especially during times of grief. And so, and by the way, I don't think the Christian community in the 21st century in first world countries really helps with that too much. We put all of the focus on you and how can we alleviate the most amount of pain from your life as possible, right? And so we surround you with, well-being for sure and well-intentioned stuff and thoughts and prayers and whatnot. But again, we've got to reach a point where we wake up to, I am one of 8 billion people on this planet. Life cannot be about me and solely about me and my pain. And so that's why Jen and I highly recommend the fraternity, the Unwanted Fraternity, for our listeners and friends of listeners, because you get around people and you realize I'm not the only one in pain. And gosh, your pain sounds pretty bad. And again, we don't recommend comparing, but you get humbled pretty quickly when you realize, oh, it's not all about me. Mm-hmm. And there's something not only cathartic, but enjoyable to fellowship with others who are in pain with you. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, it isn't all about me. It's about God working in me and through me. And before you know it, a year goes by, 2 years, 5 years, and you look back and say, I am growing closer to him. And like Jerry said, I can't even explain, even in the midst of my deepest pains, there have been tremendous amounts of joy and hope. How? Because you're giving it over to God. That's how. And he's building character, producing character, hope, and maturity in you, just like the Bible said he would.
If you're out there listening and you think, okay, I'm ready to take the step forward to really start persevering instead of coping in my circumstances, first you mentioned community. So 2 great ways I was thinking about here is, do join a group. The Grief Share group is awesome, and they really do a great job at connecting you with people who are going through difficulties. But then also find ways that you can serve others. We're in a season right now, getting ready for Christmas, and there are many, many opportunities out there for serving. Even if it's not at your church, go to the local food bank, find a way that you can help at your kids' school, maybe serve your neighbor, just bring them dinner one night. Like, think of ways that you can step out of your comfort zone and put the focus on someone else and serve them. And
just real practical. A friend of ours, Dave lost his wife, and he was left with 2, I think preteen, teen daughters at the time. They've since grown. But to your point, Jen, Dave sends out, I think weekly, if not bi-weekly, prayer requests. And so we all get a text, the people in his group, and it's, how can I pray for you? This is a guy who lost his wife and was raising 2 daughters on his own, and he's serving us by texting us, asking how he can pray for us. Mm-hmm. It's things like that. It just gets like exactly what you said. It's just, he's saying, hey, I'm in pain, but we're all in pain. And I know that me praying has been helpful for me. How can I pray for you? It's just a great way for the body to serve one another. But he's the last person you would think, because again, culture would say, no, Dave, the focus needs to be on you, and we need to be praying for you. You're the one who lost your wife. And he's saying, yeah, I'm not dismissing that. Like I still hurt and I still need prayer, but I have the capacity to pray for others. I have the bandwidth to pray for others, even in my pain. Serve one another.
Yes, that's awesome. It's very simple,
Very
sending
simple.
a text out. So I encourage you guys out there listening, find ways that you can serve. Maybe write a list and say, hey, this season for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to practice putting the focus on someone else.
Especially during this holiday season. I mean, it's so many opportunities in the holiday season to serve. And my brother, for years, did such a great job during Thanksgiving, I think during Christmas even, where he and his kids would go to the soup kitchen and spend the morning there. And then spend time with the family later. Like, it wasn't like it has to be all day, but it's a moment to where, man, when you're around other people in need, it is not only cathartic, it really does expose you to, there are so many people in need and suffering, and you're in need and suffering as well. And, there is something, I think, not just it's a cliche that misery loves company. There's something very biblical about that. Rejoice and weep together. Mm-hmm. Like, weep with people. The implication there is you're around people that want to weep with you, and you can weep with them. Well, that just means that more than people than just yourself are hurting. So go weep with them and rejoice with them as well. But be in community for sure.
And lastly, I would say, do your best each night to find things that you can thank God for, because ultimately He is the only source of your hope. Honestly, that's all we have in this world, is that we have hope in Christ. And so taking a moment each night to just be thankful for one thing during the day, can really set your mind and give you resolve to continue through that perseverance, even when you feel like quitting. Because we all know what it feels like to go persevere through something. You do want to quit at times. And instead of allowing yourself to quit in that journey towards healing, spending time thanking God for what he has done that day or what he is doing in your life can really be just very cathartic for your soul. I went back through Greg's book when he wrote on One in Fraternity, and he wrote on day 363, I do credit God and God alone for the strength of being able to get up each day this past year and live with some degree of hope. I thank him that there have been many bright moments during this year of grief. Even a simple prayer like that, to say, I give you credit, God, for the bright moments that you gave me this week. I am so grateful. That is choosing not to quit and choosing to persevere.
Yeah. I thought, my outlet was journaling, but yeah, when I look back even on some of those entries, I'm encouraged that there was that resolve to at least, just raw pouring out my heart, but it, to somehow get back to God, I can still praise you, and I still want to praise you. And when you do that for one day becomes two becomes five becomes 2 weeks, 2 weeks becomes, and then it becomes habitual to where it's like, why wouldn't I want to do that? It's those habits that you will need in your perseverance on the days you don't want to do it. And so if it becomes a habit, then on those days you don't want to do it, you do it out of habit, and that gets you through till you want to do it again. And so you've got to start. And so that, a thought becomes a word becomes an action becomes a habit becomes a character, lifetime, whatever it is. You got to start. And then again, mine was journaling. I would highly encourage our listeners, find some way to memorialize it, to catalog it, so that you can look back and say, it wasn't all, painful and unbelievable in that sense. There are moments of joy and hope, and so I'm eternally grateful for people like Jerry who penned it, and he's got his. Jen mentioned, I wrote down mine in our book. Do something to where you can look back and say, oh yeah, because then you will see perseverance. You will see, oh yeah, I did actually, in those days where you didn't think it was happening. No, it really was happening. Yeah. It's just not as prominent on the day-to-day level as it can be when we pull out a year from now or 10 years from now and look back and say, oh yeah, I can see that. And then you're all the more likely to bend the knee and give God all the more glory. He was right with you then, as hard as it was to see, as much as he's right with you now.
And something else I do, for those of you who struggle sometimes, because there are days I don't want to go to the gym, back to the metaphor for the life compared to the race that I'm going to train for. I set myself up for a goal the next day. So I say, okay, tomorrow is run day. I'm going to try and get a run in, and even though I don't want to. So think through too if you're taking time to write what you're grateful for, maybe set a goal for the next day of, okay, well, I am going to, smile at 5 people tomorrow, wherever you are, so that you have something to look forward to and challenge yourself in. Well, that's all we have time for today and our podcast of wrapping up A Grace Disguised by Jerry Sittser. We are so grateful for his wisdom in that book. We have guests coming on for our next episode. I'm so excited about that. We have Lori and Scott Morgan. They're going to be talking about their journey through infertility as we wrap up this session on how you handle deep loss and deep grief. And they have some incredible wisdom to share with you. So please don't miss that episode next time. As you go through the week, Please feel free to reach out to us on our social media through Instagram or Facebook. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to know how to pray for you. We encourage you to go through this week and try some new things, spend time with the Lord, and know that you are loved and you are not alone. We'll see you next time.
Turn on the mic, the static clears. Unwanted brotherhood of tears. Grief can weigh us down alone, but here we find a common home. The voices speak to heart and soul. In darker times they make us whole. Through Jesus' light we find our way. In every night there comes a day. From shadows to the dawn we rise, hope reflected in our eyes.